Hey, how you doing? Try to make a quick video on factoring. Just giving you the key points of things that you want to consider when it comes to determining what factoring company you want to go with. So a factoring company is the person that assumes the risk and will pay you up front when you're booking a load. For trucking companies, if you're a trucking company and you're booking loads, then you're going to get you a factoring company that assumes the risk and pay you up front if you want to be paid the same day that you book your load. So when it comes to a factoring company, you want to keep in mind certain things, and these certain things are: number one, you want to make sure that you get you a factoring company that's available 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You don't want no factoring company that's not available when you need your money. You want to be able to submit your load, and you want to be able to talk to somebody at all times. This is the people that stand between you and your money. You want to be able to access this company and these people at all times. Number two, most important thing to consider is the fuel card. This is very important. You can take my advice or you ain't got to, but this is very important. The fuel card, you want to make sure you're saving 60 to 80 cents. Why is this so important? Because this is your biggest expense. And if your factoring company ain't saving you this money, ain't nobody else gonna save you this money. And this is your biggest expense. You gotta buy that fuel. You gotta buy the fuel if you're in the trucking industry, one way or another. When you're delivering these loads, you gotta get this fuel. It's gonna be your most reoccurring expense, and it's gonna be your biggest expense. So fuel card need to be 60 to 80 cents per gallon. Some, or really the average that I done experienced, is 20 to 30 cents is what they're gonna offer you. You'll have some to even offer you less, 10 to 15%. That's not gonna be good. You want to thrive and not just survive in this trucking game. So you want to make sure you get you a good fuel card. And I tell you, the fuel company, the fuel card, and the factoring company that I went with at the end of this video. Number three, most important thing to consider when it comes to a factoring company is the contract. You don't want to be under a contract. You want to be under a month-to-month agreement. And the reason I say that is because if you get under a contract, they hold you accountable for a certain number of loads that you supposed to submit within this duration of period that you supposed to be with them. And if you don't fulfill that obligation, then you owe them, what you don't fulfill. So, for instance, if you leave 6 months early, if you want to leave 6 months early, then you got to pretty much buy yourself out of your contract and pay them whatever that other 6 months would have been worth, because you were factored into their budget, at that point when you signed that contract. So that's why you don't want to be under a contract. You just want to be under a month-to-month agreement. Fourth most important thing to consider is the type of agreement that you sign up for. And you got two different types. You got a secured and an unsecured. Now, me, myself, I signed up with the unsecured. And I'll tell you why, but let me explain secured and unsecured. Secured is when you submit a load and you get it factored, they're gonna pay you the day that you get that load submitted and delivered. So when it's delivered and you get it submitted, they're gonna pay you the money that it's worth minus the factoring fee. And then they're gonna wait for the broker to pay them 30 days later that total amount what it should have been. So they're gonna pay you, let's just say if it's $1,000 load, they're gonna factor it for 3%, then they're gonna pay you $970. They're going to take $30, that's the 3%, and then they're going to get paid $1,000 from the broker in 30 days. And so they'll make $30 profit off of you. So you want to make sure that you're well, you don't want to make sure, it's up to you to decide with this. But like I said, I went with the unsecured. But, you know, secured means if that broker decides that they're not going to pay, for whatever the reason, they're not going to pay that $1,000, then you are secured and you ain't got to pay them that $970 that you already been paid. If you are signed up for an unsecured agreement, then you got to pay that $970 back. You know what I'm saying? You've been paid up front, and for some reason 30 days later that broker ain't gonna pay them. Now you got to pay that $970 back. You got to pay it back. So I signed up for the unsecured because my factoring company provided a free credit check, and they would not factor. This is one important thing that I considered. They wouldn't factor a load that wasn't approved, as far as like approved by their credit check. They got to do a credit check on every broker. So when you're looking on the load board and you see these loads and they posted for $1,000 or whatever it might be, and you book this load, you got to do a credit check to see if that broker is good, if they've been paying, you know, for these loads or whatever. And if they pass their credit check, that's the time that your factoring company will accept that load. But if they don't pass their credit check, then your factoring company ain't gonna fool with them. And it don't matter who it is. You know what I'm saying? So your factoring company only fool with good brokers, pretty much is what that boiled down to. And so that meant that it don't matter if you secured or unsecured, the people that your that your factoring company is gonna deal with is credible people. And you can rest assured that most of the time, unless it's some situation where you damage the load or something like that, then they probably ain't gonna pay. But if you delivered the load, it's secured, and you didn't damage it, delivered on time, you met your obligation, then you gonna get paid. And they gonna get paid. And you ain't got nothing to worry about, because you done a credit check. And that's why I done that. The difference was getting paid between 3% or 5%. With my factoring company, I could factor loads for 3% that was unsecured versus factor loads for 5% that was secured. Now, it really didn't matter to me either way, because I had a good fuel card saving 60 to 80 cents per gallon, and I was gonna save, regardless, the 5% or the 3%, I was gonna save more than that in fuel, you know what I'm saying, than what I factored for. So that's, you know, what was important, and that's what's important to me and what stands out. So it's up to you to decide, you know, secured or unsecured. I went with unsecured because I did a credit check on every broker before I ever submitted a load. As long as they passed, I knew I was good, and I was always good. Number five most important thing to consider is the factoring rate itself. Like I stated earlier, the average rate is going to be around 3%, and you'll get some that's around 5%. You'll get some that's around 1 to 2%. Now, the ones that are around 1 to 2%, I feel like they're trying to entice you with a low rate, because they're not offering you a good fuel card. And so they're gonna try to entice you with a low rate and probably get you to sign a contract so that you locked in for a duration of time, and then you got to pay them all this money, what it add up at the end. So be aware of that. You know, the difference between 3, 3, and 5% is really not that much, because you're only going to submit a certain amount of loads per week, and you know, the more that you submit, the lower that they'll you know, factor it for anyway. So as long as you got a good fuel card, you're gonna save more than what you factor for, and you'll be in the positive, and you'll be able to kind of thrive in this trucking game. Number 6, most important thing to consider when it comes to a factoring company is the fees that are outside of the factoring rate. So the fees that it costs to move your money. Now, the way it's structured, when you have a factoring company, you get a fuel card, and then whenever you submit a load, they're gonna put that money on a card, and then that's your money to do whatever you need to. If you want to send it to a checking account, if you want to buy fuel, it's yours to do so. But in order for them to put that money on the card, it's gonna cost, and it's a fee. And some factoring companies will charge you a ridiculous amount just to put that money on the card, anywhere between like $10 up to like $10 just to put that money on the card, and that's too much. You want to pay around $1. It's gonna be a fee regardless. You want to pay around $1, or if you can pay less, if you cannot pay a fee, if you can find a factoring company that don't charge, perfect. And then to use that card, to use that fuel card, it's gonna be a fee. Some factoring companies will charge you a ridiculous amount, $3 to $5 every time you swipe buying fuel, and you don't want that. It should be around $1 or less. You know, maybe $1.25 or something like that, but not more than that. So that's what you want. And then to transfer your money, you're gonna have to transfer your money to checking accounts, to pay your employees, to pay yourself, and there's gonna be a fee. And so you don't want to have a ridiculous charge to move your money, that $10 charge or whatever. You want to pay $1. So those are the 6 things to consider. Finna have to wrap this video up when it comes to a factoring company, and what company checks the box with all of these is Insight Technology. Insight Technology was the company I had that factored for me, and they handled all of these things, and you know, and I was able to get my money when I needed to, you know, on a fuel card, and it was for like $1, and you know, and I could call them any time of the day, even on holidays. It all worked out. So hope you learned something. If you did, like, share, subscribe, and you know, comment, leave a comment, ask questions. Like I said, hope you learned something. This was things that I wish I would have known before I got started, but it all worked out anyway. So hope I helped you out. Peace.